People tend to notice the facts that fit their story and ignore the ones that don't, without even realizing it. This isn't laziness, it's confirmation bias. Today we're breaking down why brains do this and how it sneaks into daily life, and why it can make even smart people confidently wrong. If you find this content interesting, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos like it. Confirmation bias is basically a person's brain taking the easy route. They see evidence that supports their beliefs and conveniently ignore the rest. It's not about being dumb, it's just a mental shortcut. Their brain quietly whispers, "No, that fact doesn't really matter. Let's focus on what feels right." It's like their mind is scanning the world with a filter, highlighting what fits and blurring everything else. Articles, social media, conversations. They selectively notice the bits that reinforce their narrative and ignore the messy contradictions. Naturally, they feel smug for being logical. This happens in tiny, everyday ways. People might insist their diet or routine works, only paying attention to the evidence that supports it and discarding the dozen signs that it doesn't. It's subtle, relentless, and deeply comforting for the ego. Even when people try to be objective, their brains are quietly rooting for their pre-existing beliefs. They might say, "I'm being fair," while subconsciously skipping over the inconvenient details. Their internal hype keeps cheering, "See, they were totally right all along." The sneaky part is how invisible it is. Most of the time, people have no idea their brain is running this little side hustle of mental gymnastics. Decisions and opinions get shaped behind the scenes, leaving them thinking, "That seems perfectly rational," when really, the filter has been working all along. Human brains are little efficiency machines that hate uncertainty and contradiction. When confronted with information that doesn't fit their internal narrative, people feel a tiny stress response. Their brains respond by quietly downplaying or ignoring the inconvenient parts, basically saying, "Let's not overcomplicate things." This isn't a moral flaw. Dismissing evidence that doesn't fit their worldview is built into human biology. Evolution favored brains that simplify and organize information to make the world feel stable, even if that comes at the expense of accuracy. Confirmation bias is just a side effect of survival instincts doing their job. Social dynamics reinforce it too. People naturally gravitate toward others and sources that confirm what they already believe. Their little echo chambers quietly reinforce the filtered reality, while anything inconvenient gets ignored, even if it's sitting right there in front of them. Confirmation bias is a built-in comfort system. People's brains arrange reality so it feels coherent and manageable, even if that means glossing over messy truths. People tend to notice information that fits what they already believe and quietly ignore the rest. It shows up everywhere: news stories, political debates, even advice columns. If a headline agrees with their preconceptions, it gets extra attention. Anything that challenges their worldview, easy to scroll past or dismiss as irrelevant. It's like their brain has a VIP section for agreeable facts and a back alley for the inconvenient ones. Relationships are another playground for confirmation bias. People notice flaws that support their suspicions but conveniently overlook the signs that someone is acting with good intentions. That little internal commentary, "See, I knew it," gets louder than any evidence to the contrary, and yes, it often makes conflicts more dramatic than they need to be. Daily routines aren't immune either. People tend to favor strategies or habits that feel right, even if they aren't objectively the most effective. That new productivity hack or diet plan? If it fits their existing narrative of how they should live, it gets embraced. Anything else gets ignored. Brains are great at feeling right, but not always at being right. Online life amplifies this bias exponentially. Algorithms are basically confirmation bias on steroids, feeding people more content that aligns with what they already click on. The more they engage with agreeable posts, the more the filter tightens. Suddenly, their online world looks like a perfect echo chamber, and inconvenient truths barely get a glance. This reinforcement loop is subtle but relentless. The more someone sees confirming information, the more their beliefs feel justified, and the cycle continues almost invisibly. Before they realize that their worldview is largely curated by their brain's comfort filter, and it feels perfectly natural, even though it's selectively edited. Left unchecked, confirmation bias can make people stubborn and closed off. They might insist they're being rational, all while ignoring evidence that contradicts their beliefs. It's like their brain is waving a little flag that says, "Nope, this doesn't fit the story, pretend it doesn't exist." And suddenly, being open-minded feels exhausting or unnecessary. But it doesn't stop there. Confirmation bias strengthens prejudices, fuels echo chambers, and makes people defensive in arguments. They'll fight tooth and nail for their viewpoint, not because it's objectively right, but because their brain has already stamped it approved. And of course, they have zero clue that the stubbornness is largely automated. Even personal growth takes a hit. Feedback that challenges their self image tends to get filtered out, quietly dismissed, or rationalized away. The brain is basically protecting the ego, which is convenient in the short term but can leave people stuck in patterns they could otherwise recognize and change. That stress they avoid by ignoring contradictions doesn't just vanish, it finds other outlets. It creeps into relationships, fuels repeated mistakes, or creates tension in situations that could have been handled more smoothly. It's like a background app running a messy program, mostly invisible but quietly affecting everything else. Essentially, confirmation bias is subtle but powerful. It shapes what people notice, what they believe, and ultimately how they act, often before they even realize it. And yet, it's not some villain in the brain. It's just a very enthusiastic efficiency expert doing its job a little too well. But once people become aware of it, confirmation bias can stop being a trap and start working in their favor. The first step is for the person to notice when they are naturally leaning toward information that confirms their existing views without even questioning it. Awareness alone can make a huge difference. It's like catching a brain in the act of taking shortcuts. Once they see it happening, they can start deciding whether to go along for the ride or hit pause. Step 2 is intentionally seeking out perspectives that challenge the narrative. Not to argue, not to prove a point, but to genuinely understand the other angle. It's uncomfortable at first. Brains aren't big fans of being poked. But that discomfort is exactly the point. It's the mental equivalent of exercise. Slightly awkward, but it strengthens thinking muscles. Step 3 is reflecting on why certain evidence feels more appealing. What's emotional comfort and what's objective truth? People often favor what feels safe or ego boosting, not necessarily what's accurate. Just pausing to notice that can prevent a lot of misguided decisions and quietly overconfident conclusions. Over time, practicing this awareness builds mental flexibility. People start making fewer snap judgments, noticing patterns more clearly, and actually considering the full picture before acting. It doesn't make their brains perfect, it just gives them a little more room to navigate reality instead of living in a filtered highlight reel. Confirmation bias isn't going anywhere, it's built into human thinking. But when people notice it and actively engage with it, they can start steering their own thoughts instead of letting their mental autopilot decide for them. The trick is to treat it like a helpful, if overzealous, assistant, in charge of some things, but now with oversight. Thanks for watching. If any of this resonated, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a like and drop a comment and let me know what popped in your mind or what you're working on. And if you want more content like this, practical psychology-based insights to help you reclaim focus, reduce stress, and understand your brain, hit subscribe and stick around. I'll see you in the next video.